perspective will be Major General Simmons, who will offer his perspective on leadership. I've asked General Simmons and General Simmons to come up and share some things, some takeaway with you. So the first one will be Major General Simmons. Got some intro music for Major General Simmons? Crank it up. I want to hear the music when the General comes up here. We're going to liven this crowd up. We got the Methodist crowd. I want the Baptist crowd. All right. Thank you, sir.
Is General Hargett in here? You know, they asked me what I wanted to play for music, and I said Rocky Top, so I saw that didn't happen. That was for General Hargett, but I don't guess he's here. Well, that was illuminating. I'm going to go off script. I came back from my first deployment. It was about 3 months long, and we had his and her bicycles. And on the back of my bicycle was my son's child seat. He's 30 now. This was for a 1-year-old. And that child seat, the plastic on it was broken. The struts going down were bent, and it had just been beat to hell. And I realized I was supposed to move that over to her bicycle. And then I came back from the next 9-month deployment, and she had decided she was going to mow the yard while I was gone. And the lawnmower looked like it had been beat up with a sledgehammer. So that did wonders for our marriage, because I'm now afraid of her, and I don't, whatever she wants. All right, I'm going to stay on script, because if I don't stay on script, I will go a long time, and my wife will be mad at me. Good morning. I was asked to speak today, and the subjects were leadership, or my greatest challenge, and then something to the effect of, by the way, make it motivational. Well, I don't do motivational. But I know how these speeches for conventions go. It's some really old guy with his best years behind him who has succeeded in spite of himself. That would be me. Gives his best advice to a group of the best of the Georgia National Guard, and that would be you. And I'm simply here to carry on that tradition. Now, let me start not with my hardest challenge. Hello, General King. But with my easiest challenge. Don't you think I should start with that? One of my assignments was to Bagram Air Base. In fact, it was my last one. My office, the operations group office, was in the second floor of the old control tower, the non-working control tower. I was in there with my boss, my counterpart on the fighter side, an aide, and an exec. The wing commander had his alternate office on the third floor where he could see everything, but we never really saw him. Well, I guess we have a very difficult job there on the second floor, and of course we didn't have enough money and resources or support to get it done. So as aviators do, we like to sit around and discuss stuff. By the way, I loved that job. Anyway, the way we expressed our frustrations was through verbal banter, and there were cuss words spoken, and apparently a lot. So the wing commander had some visitors one day, and I guess he could hear us downstairs. And he came down after his visitors left and said he would never hear a cuss word coming from our office again. Well, that was a challenge accepted. This was a difficult task. We come up and we had a staff meeting, came up with COAs. But the most ingenious solution came from our aide. She was able to come up with a card, had cuss words on the left, and phrases and code words on the right. Quickly, we memorized our phrases, and we became experts in code. I was the one that actually set the record. During one of the wing commander's staff meetings, I was able to work in 4 code words without laughing. So in the future, airmen, if you're having a conversation with me and you hear words like, really, or you hear, how nice, how very, very nice, things are not going well for you. Have you heard me say those words before? Now you know. Okay, there's only a few real challenges I would talk about. A lot of them are very personal. But one I would like to talk about today was my transition from the Guard to the active duty. Believe it or not, that was a huge challenge for me. One of my first Guard bosses, and I'm going to call him Opie, but that's not his real name, Opie decided it was his job to take the square active duty corners off of me as quick as he could. You see, I was a little different from the other guys coming off active duty. Most newcomers are young captains, only got about 6 years. Well, I was coming off 15 years of active duty, a senior major, and pretty set in my ways. For quite a while, Opie called me the rad sob. Anybody know what rad sob is? Regular active duty son of a bitch. It was actually a very dark time in my life. I just quit active duty for something better in the Guard. Away from my family, they were actually home living with their family, and I'm 40 years old. Not a good time at all. But what I'd like to get across to you here is it was my attitude, my desire to ladle honey, and I'll talk about that later. That kept me going. I stayed positive, kept showing up, kept smiling, kept studying, and just kept on learning. Slowly, I was accepted. Opie. Okay, it's Benson. Benson was trying to, I learned that Benson was trying to make me a part of the Georgia Air National Guard team. Years later, I don't know if you know this, but just surprised me, Opie called and invited me out to preside over his retirement after he went on active duty status, believe it or not. And I flew out to Little Rock and retired him. And we're actually good friends. So, quick story about Benson. Can I tell you a quick story? We got time? All right. Quick story. Assigned to Masira on one of our big deployments. I don't know if you've ever been to Masira, but as far as assignments for aircrew, it was pretty nice. We had good food, good chow hall, a gym, and we were even allowed to go to the beach 2 days a week. Benson was my co-pilot. Well, me and my buddy Chris woke up one morning on a Tuesday and we decided we were going to go to the beach. So we're sitting there waiting to go to the beach. Well, at Masira, you can have 2 drinks every night. This before General Order Number 1. So here they come around the corner. I'm sorry, Benson and his buddy Neil come around the corner. And I was very surprised at how 2 drinks could affect them. But it is 9 o'clock in the morning and they're having to hold each other up to get to the room. They get up close to me and he said, "Hey, what are y'all doing?" I said, "We're going to go to the beach." And they said, "Well, we'll go to the beach with you." And I was like, "Benson, that's not a good idea. You apparently are a little inebriated on just 2 drinks that you can have a night. You really don't need to go to it because it's, number one, you're going to be highlighted that you've been having some drinking going on, and number 2, you're not allowed. This is a Omani beach, and you're not allowed to have booze out there." And Benson looked at me, and he goes, "Jesse, I have now listened to you intently, and I hear what you're saying. I know you have the best interest at heart, and I should follow your advice. But on this particular issue, I am going to continue on my stated course of action. This is not what he actually said. He said 2 words. The second word was you." So this continued. As soon as they went inside to put on their bathing suits, Chris, my buddy, and I, we hightailed it to where you get picked up to go to the beach. I mean, we took off. Well, you go off the American side of the base, you go into the Omani beach area, and they control it. It's Omani guards, all of it. You can't have booze off the base. You can't have, and here comes Benson and Neil, and they've got this cooler. And there's no, so, I said, "Benson, you don't need to get on this vehicle. I mean, you don't need to be carrying that cooler. You don't need, I just went on and on. You do not do this." And he goes, "Jesse, I have now listened to what you've intently, and I hear what you're saying. And I know you have the best interest in heart, but on this particular issue, I choose to ignore you." That went on the rest of the day. And Vincent is one of those guys, and Neil, by the matter of fact, I have a lot of loving stories about him, and that is why, one of the reasons why I'm in the Guard today. And those friends and everything, they will last me forever. And I'm hoping y'all all have those stories also. We need to work hard and play hard, is what I'm trying to say. 3 minutes. Well, I had a big, long speech about attitude, okay? So we're going to go right past it. I used to give every single person that came into my ops group, my wing, everywhere I went, I had to talk to every individual. And I originally used to call it my Southern Ladies and Gentlemen speech. Well, after I deployed, I heard from a Silver Star recipient named Dunk Strasburger. He called it his honey and vinegar speech. And he would paint a beautiful picture of a beautiful scene where you're labeling that honey, and that was your positive attitude. And then he would do a picturesque scene of a horrible situation, and then you were labeling out vinegar. And that's the way he related it. And I kind of adopted that. And I said, what are you doing? Are you ladling out honey, or are you ladling out vinegar? I mean, keep that positive attitude going. It has served me well my entire career. I've always tried to relate anything, leadership, tenacity, whatever you want to call it, to a positive attitude. And that's what I would like to, well, you just really messed me up today. I mean, I had all this stuff I needed to relay to all these people here, and he's just killing me. I'm going to do my motivation. I'm going to end it with a motivation, and I'm going to read it so it goes quicker, all right? I first heard this at a TAGS meeting up in Wisconsin, and I've adopted it to my motivational speech, and I hope it applies to the Army. But I'm going to close. It's one of my favorite motivational stories, and it sums up perfectly the way I feel, and I hope you do too. And sorry, Army, it's an air story, but I hope you can appreciate it. The sentiment of it to the very end applies to everyone in this room. The story comes from a gentleman who runs a 2,000-acre farm up in Barron, Wisconsin, not far from Oshkosh. He used to fly F-4s and then F-16s for the Guard and participated in the first Gulf War. The farmer went out to plant corn for a bit. Anybody heard this already? No? All right. Farmer went out to plant corn for a bit to finish a field before tomorrow and witness the great battle. A golden eagle, big, about a 6-foot wingspan, flew right in front of his tractor. The eagle was being chased by 3 crows that were continuously dive-bombing it and pecking at it. The crows do this because the eagles rob their nests when they can find it. At any rate, the eagle banked hard right in one evasive maneuver and landed in the field about 100 feet in front of the tractor. The majestic eagle stood about 3 feet tall. The crows landed and took positions at 120 degrees apart and kept their distance at about 20 feet from the big bird. The eagle could only take a couple of steps towards one of the crows, and the ones behind him would peck him. All the while this would continue, all of a sudden, the reinforcements showed up. The farmer happened to spot the eagle's mate hurling down out of the sky at what appeared to be approximately 1.5 Mach. Just before impact, the eagle on the ground took to flight. This was obviously a coordinated tactic, probably pre-briefed, and the 3 crows that were surrounding the eagles took flight also, thinking they were going to continue to peck the first eagle. The first crow that was targeted by the diving eagle never stood a snowball's chance. There was a mid-air explosion of black feathers, and that crow was done. The diving eagle then banked hard to the left in what we appear to be a 9G climbing turn, using the energy he had accumulated in the dive, and hit the second crow 2 seconds later. Another crow dead. The grounded eagle, which was now airborne and had an altitude advantage on the remaining crow, this third crow was now streaking in full afterburner, made a short dive, and the eagle turned, banked hard, and hit the escaping eagle at about 20 feet AGL. Another crow bit the dust. This aerial battle was better than any air show the farmer had seen, including the warbirds at Oshkosh. As the farmer got closer and closer to the 2 eagles on the ground, he got within 20 feet of them. The eagle stopped and looked back at him, and he could see in their eyes, the eagles knew who the boss of the sky was. The U.S. military is just like those eagles. You can say what you want about our training, the age of our equipment, and our weapon systems, but the United States military is still the most powerful in the world. So be proud of it. And we are the best in the world, and your job is to make sure that continues. All right, that's enough. God bless our fallen heroes and lift the hearts of their family and friends. Thank you very much.